Hey everybody, Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I woke up a couple days ago to a news headline on my music feed, and it said something like John 5 caught using backing tracks at a Motley Crue concert. So I watched the little video, it's just on my phone so I couldn't see it really well. There's a part in that clip where you could hear a guitar being played, but if you look, you could see that John didn't strum anything. So it brought up a whole bunch of accusations that he wasn't really playing, that he was just miming to a backing track. A lot of commenters also talked about this part of the song too. So my first instinct as a John 5 fan was to debunk this accusation. And I thought, as a guitar player that's been playing most of my life, I know what he's doing. Even if you've only been playing guitar for a couple of years, you could probably do this pretty easily. And that's where you start to play the guitar a lot with your fretting hand without having to pick. And so if you watch really carefully, you see that's what he's doing in the first one. He goes something like this. See how on the first note I didn't even pick? I just hammered down, then I picked. That's what he's doing in the video. Of course, I don't know how to do his cool pick flip that he did right beforehand, which caused him not to have his hand ready in time to strum that chord. And then on the other part, we have this. In the video, you can actually hear an A note being played without him picking it. And then he comes down and picks the second one. And here's how he did it. All you have to do is pluck the string with one of your fretting hand fingers. You don't even have to pick it. And then come in with a pick afterwards like he does. So that night I was going to do the video, but I got caught up putting my podcast studio together. So the next day I wake up and I'm like, I'll do the video now. In the back of my mind, I thought this would happen. John 5 posted a reaction video the next day, and he just basically explained what I explained earlier about the hammer-ons and pull-offs and not always needing to pick every single note. And he explained that that's why that anomaly was happening. But there was still an unanswered question about something I noticed when I was really checking out these videos, really trying to go through them with a fine-tooth comb. And before I tell you what I discovered, let me set it up by telling you this. I took out my phone and I programmed my metronome with the tap tempo for the end of Wild Side. And I discovered that it was 109 beats per minute all the way through the end. Tommy Lee never strayed from it. What that tells me, we already kind of all know this, is that Tommy is playing to a click track most likely. So everything feels very even now when you see Motley Crue play live. If you go back to their old days where they didn't use any technology like that, you could hear that there's wavering in their tempos and everything kind of gets pushed and pulled and there's a more human aspect to it. I just like the free Tommy Lee version, the older version. The newer version, there are a lot of advantages if you play to a click, like you can sync up the lights to things, a lot of production things you could do. That siren can come out of nowhere because it's programmed into the tracks. So that's the reason why they probably do that. And a lot of bands do that these days. Now here's why I had to set that whole thing up. Because now that I pretty much knew for a fact that they're playing along to a click track, it made a lot of sense what happened during the guitar solo of Wild Side. If you listen really carefully, John 5 is playing the rhythm part first. And when he kicks into his solo, I could still hear a guitar playing behind him. Like a rhythm guitar holding it together underneath his solo. Now, I know sometimes Vince Neil will grab a guitar, put it around his neck, and kind of play along. If you watch him, though, he's not super consistent all the time. He'll just stop, and then he'll start playing out of nowhere. And I didn't see Vince Neil playing guitar during this part. And I thought, do they hire somebody to like stand behind the curtain and play some of the rhythm parts? I wasn't sure. But because now that I pretty much know that they use a click, I thought it just makes sense for them to put the rhythm guitar in the click track. If you listen to studio recordings, guitar players like to double and triple and sometimes quadruple their guitar parts to make it sound huge. So live, sometimes it could sound lacking if you're the only guitar player. Listen to this really old version of Mick Mars playing without any backing tracks or anything like that, just his guitar. see how it's a lot emptier, even though I do prefer it. I like the raw Motley Crue. I think I've made that clear. But it's just different. You know what I mean? It just doesn't sound as huge and full, I guess, compared to when you have the backing tracks backing you up. I made two versions of this part, just a few bars of the solo so you can hear the difference. When you have backing tracks, it sounds like this. If you take out that backing guitar track, when the solo comes in, it sounds a lot more hollow because only the bass guitar is backing you up. Pretty big difference. So you could probably see why a lot of bands will add an additional guitar track if they only have one guitarist in the band. And they have the technology these days to bring in that second guitar whenever they want it and then take it out when they don't need it. So there are probably a lot of times in the show where it's just John Five playing everything. He's good enough to hold it all down, trust me. But when he needs a little bit of backup on some of those solos or he just wants to thicken up some parts, I bet you they bring it in. It's not as loud as his guitar. It's tucked under a little bit, but it still makes it sound a lot more full. So this is just my opinion. This is what I think is going on. There's no way John Five is mimicking guitar parts. You know, standing up there, it's not even turned on. He's just pretending. There's no way that's happening. He's really playing. He's playing the leads, he's playing the rhythms. But since the band is following along to a grid or the click track, I believe that they do bring in additional instruments whenever they need it, just like when the siren comes on. Every time at the exact right time. I could be wrong, and I really wish they would just hire somebody to play, you know, I'm available if you want, to play behind a curtain or whatever, just to fill up those holes. But obviously it's more economical just to put it in the tracks since you're already using them. Now that you've heard my take on this, and if I'm correct, how does that make you feel now about the situation? Is it still upsetting that they throw in an additional guitar track? Does it not bother you that much? For me, I really wish, being old school once again, that they would ditch the click. They'd go back to just letting Tommy lay down the tempo and the feel and all that stuff. And I'm cool with just having the one guitar like old school Mick Mars days. Thank you so much for watching. Last night I recorded my first podcast in the new studio like I was talking about, and I've got about 2 days of editing ahead of me, but once that's done, I'll put that out. So we'll see you there. Thank you. Bye-bye.